You know what's great about your investment account with the big guys? It's actually a time machine. Log in and zoom. Welcome back to 1999. It's time for an upgrade. At Public.com, you can invest in almost everything. Stocks, bonds, options, and more. You could even put your cash to work at an industry-leading 4.1% APY. Leave your clunky, outdated platform behind at Public.com. Go to Public.com and fund your account in 5 minutes or less. Paid for by Public Investing Inc., member FINRA and SIPC. Full disclosures at Public.com/disclosures.
You don't know me yet, but I bet we have something in common. We all wish we were better functioning humans. Maybe figure out how to sleep better, have more meaningful relationships, cook more. That's Search for Practical Knowledge. It's my job at the Washington Post. I host a podcast called Try This. Every episode is like an audio class, and we learn together. I'm Christina Quinn. Now you know me. Check out Try This wherever you're listening.
I'm Rodney Williams.
And I'm Travis Holloway. Welcome to the Wealth Break Podcast, a real conversation about finance.
Let's be honest. Building wealth doesn't look the same for everyone.
I feel like sometimes being broke is a cycle and that we might have to revisit that.
And we're not stopping at success stories.
What happens when it doesn't go right? How do you cope with it?
Because wealth isn't just about money. It's about creating a life where you thrive and help others do the same.
Listen to the Wealth Break Podcast on the iHeartRadio app.
You're listening to Later with Mo Kelly on demand from KFI AM 640.
KFI AM 640 is Mo Kelly. We're live everywhere on YouTube and the iHeartRadio app. And now we're about 7 minutes in to the second night of the curfew as far as downtown is concerned. So if you are in the downtown area, you are now obligated by law to leave, or you will be arrested unless you happen to live there, or you're leaving work from there. But from now until 6 a.m., it is night 2 of the curfew. If we use last night as an example of what's going on, hundreds of people were arrested just for curfew violation. So LAPD has made it very clear that there will be no latitude given for violation of the curfew. And at the beginning of the program, I was playing audio specifically from LA County DA Nathan Hochman and also LA County Sheriff Robert Luna, talking about some arrests that have been made, charges which have been filed. But I also had some audio I want to play for you from LAPD Chief Jim McDonnell and how they're going to approach arresting people tonight and beyond. Take a listen to this.
Is our property.
I want to start by expressing my sincere gratitude to all of our officers and deputies on the lines for their professionalism and dedication. They've been asked to work long hours in dangerous and unpredictable conditions, and I'm grateful and proud of their resilience. I also want to thank our dedicated partners from local, state, and federal agencies for ongoing partnership and unwavering support during these challenging times. The Los Angeles Police Department recognizes and supports the right to peaceful protest. But when individuals choose to weaponize that right by assaulting peace officers, endangering lives, or committing crimes under the cover of a crowd that is no longer a protest, that is a crime and it won't be tolerated. 3 individuals have been charged with felony assault on our officers, including the use of fireworks and motorcycles to cause harm. These were deliberate attacks. Acts that injured officers who were simply doing their job out there to protect the public. Let's not forget our officers face uncertain and often dangerous situations every day, and their risk to their lives has been even greater over these last few days. I've watched Molotov cocktails and fireworks shot mortars being launched out of tubes at our officers. They're encountering routinely M-type fireworks and commercial-grade fireworks, which in the state of California are considered explosives, and they can kill. Our officers should never have to face targeted violence while standing on a line to protect others. I want to thank the district attorney for pursuing felony charges in these cases. It sends a strong and important message. If you assault a peace officer in this city or this county, you will be held accountable. Additionally, I'm also pleased that there are charges related to looting and vandalism, crimes that took advantage of the unrest to target businesses and city property. In one case, a retail store was burglarized and tens of thousands of dollars in merchandise were stolen. and another graffiti was sprayed onto a historic public building while an accomplice stood watch. These crimes don't advance any cause or further any message. What they do is harm to our communities, our small businesses, and our civic institutions. The LAPD will continue to investigate all incidents thoroughly and work with our partners in the DA's office to bring every offender to justice. We remain committed to protecting First Amendment rights, restoring peace, and holding criminals accountable. I want to thank our officers, our partners in this community for their resilience and cooperation throughout this event. Thank you.
That was LAPD Chief Jim McDonald giving some sense of what has happened in the previous days, how LAPD has reacted to it, some of the violence that officers have endured. And something I took away from that is the increased use of these improvised devices via fireworks. Unfortunately, they're going to be everywhere, if only because we're only a few weeks out from the 4th of July. So those are going to be more readily available to these idiots out there who want to start something. And yes, they are weapons. And yes, they are very dangerous. And we'll probably see, unfortunately, more of that because it'll be readily available for those who have bad intentions. Speaking of that, and this is something that I'm just particularly curious to see. I'm looking out for this because I know that there was some violence in Santa Ana earlier today. It was started off as a peaceful protest. And of course, you know, when you have these public protests that you and let's say 50 of like-minded individuals begin together, it's on TV. People know where to go. And if you have bad intentions, you will show up with your bricks, with your fireworks, and you know, even water bottles, and you'll try to create mayhem. And that's what often happens because these are not private events. And what started off as a demonstration later escalated into violent confrontations, and this is according to KTLA, with police at the intersection of Bristol and First Streets. This prompted police officers to use tear gas and less than lethal projectiles. Many retaliated by hurling bottles, we had talked about, through the air, landing near officers who were in riot gear, and fireworks were also detonated. This is what I'm looking for to see. Although we may have a curfew downtown LA, sometimes, actually all the time, you know, the tactics will shift and the locations may shift. Just because downtown may be locked down, it doesn't mean that Santa Ana or Paramount or any of these other cities are locked down. And I'm curious to see whether you will have these professional protesters, my wording, these ones who are trying to create mayhem wherever they go, whether they rotate locations, even though they may not go to downtown where they know most of the focus is. They know that they can get coverage, they can get seen, they can get some sort of attention if they somehow start mayhem in Santa Ana or some other city. That's what I'm looking for. Because, yes, if you want to face off against the police, go ahead, go downtown, get your ass arrested. I think that's even best for all concerned because that makes, therefore, fewer of you on the street. But since you have a focus now on Santa Ana and there is no curfew, I wonder if it then moves down to Orange County, because I am sure there is a degree of coordination of these troublemakers where if you're trying to start some sort of confrontation with police, you're going to go where the police are. You're going to go where the protest is, because you know wherever the protest is, there will be some sort of police presence or federal building nearby. That's what I'm looking for. Not hoping for violence. Please don't misunderstand. I'm just saying that if you think about how people want to be disruptive and also engage in criminality, those are the likely locations. And that's something that I am looking for, since it seemed like it escalated today in Santa Ana. And also, speaking of escalation, the tactics being used, the locations in which ICE is operating has escalated. They're now raiding farm workers. What does that tell you? They're basically going to the stereotypical locations, going to Home Depot, looking for migrant workers, going to churches and schools where there's a high population Latino community. This is how it's going to continue to play out. and you will see the response and protests relative to wherever these raids happen. And then we go from there. We are now about 15 minutes inside of this second night of curfew. We're going to continue to monitor this and talk about some other things as we go along the way. So keep it right here on KFI AM 640 or keep it right there on YouTube. We're live everywhere in the eye.
And here we have a specimen from the early 2000s, a legacy investing platform. Please don't touch the exhibit, folks. It could crash.
Ready to step out of the financial history museum? At public.com, you can invest in almost everything. Stocks, bonds, options, and more. You can even put your cash to work at an industry-leading 4.1% APY. Leave your clunky, outdated platform behind. Go to public.com and fund your account in 5 minutes or less. Paid for by Public Investing Inc., member FINRA and SIPC. Full disclosures at public.com/disclosures.
We've all done it. You see a headline but don't have time to read the whole story, or there's so much news you're not sure what is worth your time. I'm Colby Ekowitz, co-host of Post Reports, the weekday afternoon podcast from The Washington Post. Post Reports brings you what's relevant and revealing. Breaking stories, politics, wellness, culture. Each episode goes beyond a headline for the context you need. Find Post Reports now, wherever you're listening.
Hi, I'm Richard Karn. And you may have seen me on TV talking about the world's #1 expandable garden hose. Well, the brand new Pocket Hose Copperhead with Pocket Pivot is here, and it's a total game changer. Old-fashioned hoses get kinks and creases at the spigot, but the Copperhead's Pocket Pivot swivels 360 degrees for full water flow and freedom to water with ease all around your home. When you're all done, this rust-proof anti-burst hose shrinks back down to pocket size for effortless handling and tidy storage. Plus, your super light and ultra-durable Pocket Hose Copperhead is backed with a 10-year warranty. What could be better than that? I'll tell you what, an exciting radio-exclusive offer just for you. For a limited time, you can get a free Pocket Pivot and their 10-pattern sprayer with the purchase of any size Copperhead hose. Just text WATER to 64,000. That's WATER to 64,000 for your 2 free gifts with purchase. WATER to 64,000.
By texting 64,000, you agree to receive recurring automated marketing messages from Pocket Hose. Message and data rates may apply. No purchase required. Terms apply. Available at pockethose.com/terms.
Heart Radio app.
You're listening to Later with Mo Kelly on demand from KFI AM 640.
KFI AM 640. We're live everywhere in the iHeartRadio app and YouTube. Make sure that you check out the YouTube show. You can like and subscribe. I know it's a little bit different because we're handling breaking news, heavy news topics. It's not traditional show fare, but we'll be getting back to that sooner than later. If you just take a casual survey, none of the local networks are covering it. None of them. So that's good news because that means nothing is jumping off, as they say. It is actually good news. You can turn on Channel 7. ABC 7, they just aired the NBA Finals. Did not break away from that to show us anything going on in LA. We can look at KCBS, Channel 2, KNBC, the CW. Nothing is going on. KCAL, nothing is on those networks as far as covering what is happening in downtown LA or anywhere else. Of course, they will probably have periodic updates along the way, but they're not dedicating coverage. I am just saying that to say that the television networks are not of the opinion that anything is happening right now, which is good news, and we'll continue to monitor it. I do want to say this before we make any change in direction. Last night, you'll remember that I said, hey, I think these protests in and of themselves in L.A. will probably be done, and the ICE raids will be done in L.A. prior to Saturday. And I was saying, well, yeah, because nobody in the Trump administration wants any news story or news coverage to step on the coverage of the military parade and birthday party scheduled for Saturday. It would be counterintuitive. If you're going to spend, I don't know, $140 million or however much on this parade, you want to make sure you get maximum coverage. The only way you can ensure that is to make sure that there is no competing news story which would seem of higher value or breaking news. So you don't want ICE to do something and then you have a major protest break out in a major city because that's going to take precedence as far as news coverage. Here's the thing, though. I'm not the only one who is thinking that. And have you heard about the No Kings anti-Trump military parade protests, which are being planned specifically to get in the way of the attention the military parade might receive? The No Kings movement, they're planning, according to organizers, I can't verify or validate this. I'm saying this is what they're saying. They're organizing some 1,500 demonstrations across the country, just about every major city, with the exception of Washington, D.C. It's like, well, why would you not do Washington, D.C.? The parade is in Washington, D.C. Well, if you've been paying attention to this, you know that President Trump has said if there are any protesters who want to get in the way of the parade, they're going to be met forcefully. We're going to meet them strongly. He says something to that effect. No, they're going to be very hard on the protesters if they get in the way of the military parade. So organizers here saying, we won't even do D.C. We'll just do every other city in the country of importance and generate enough news coverage where your military parade and birthday party will not have the same visibility, the same type of impact, where no one will be talking about it, and cable news will be covering all of these other protests, which are newsworthy, as opposed to the protest. As opposed to the parade, which may not have the same type of news value, because. Look, we all have the attention spans of what, 3-4 minutes? You know, TikTok videos. Are we going to watch a parade? Are we going to watch possibly the various protests? I'm willing to believe that news agencies, television production, and even radio was like, wait a minute, this is breaking news. Okay, it's a parade. We can show B-roll of the parade later on, but we have to handle this right now. Depending on how expansive the protests are, whether there are any clashes. Let's be honest now, because you covered these protests because there might be clashes. There might be an issue between these protesters and police. In the way that you have been watching this coverage all week long, the way that I have been watching this coverage all week long. We can't get enough of it because we're curious to see if this whole country is going to fall apart. Let's be honest. We are looking to see if this country is going to physically go to hell right before our eyes. And why not watch some 1,500 protests, or at least put that out there, where television outlets, both locally and also cable outlets nationally, and broadcast news will have to make the active decision. Are we going to cover this or cover that? Because usually on a Saturday, if the president is doing something, yeah, they'll probably own the landscape, because there's nothing competing with it other than, I don't know, a professional baseball game or something. There's nothing going on Saturday that's going to rally the attention of all the cable news normally. But when you throw these protests into the mix, yeah, it might be a thing.
I believe that this national group of activists, as they're calling themselves, have put out the time, the location, and everything related to their No Kings protests in the hopes of garnering media attention. It's almost like they put out a press release to let it be known where they're going to be at, where they're organizing, what time they're planning on marching out, and all of that. And also to any would-be opponents to their protests, in the hopes of also generating maybe some clashes and some pushback, because anything that they generate, any news coverage they generate, the goal is to take the attention away from President Trump. So yeah, that's why when I saw this list, I said to myself, well, this is a press release. You all have literally put out a listing of where everything is. You only do that if you want people to know where to go, where to show up.
Where it's very, I would say, savvy and smart is they're staggered. So as you give news agencies the ability to spread out their coverage. Like, for example, Atlanta is 10 a.m. to noon. These are all local times. Okay. So that's 1 p.m. to 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. Atlanta time. Austin, Texas, 5 to 8 p.m. Baltimore, 3 to 7 p.m. Boston, 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. Charlotte, North Carolina, 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Without all the transposition of these time zones, it's staggered throughout the day, where you would be able to, almost like on New Year's Eve, where they go to each different city when they count down to the New Year. Same thing. Now let's go to Denver, which is noon to 4 p.m. Houston, which is 10 a.m. to noon. Indianapolis, noon to 3 p.m. LA, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. They have it covered, major cities, every step of the way, every hour, starting at about, I would say the earliest is 9 a.m. in Phoenix.
Yeah, throughout the day. They want to make sure that they dominate the news cycle throughout the day. There's nothing that they want President Trump to be able to do where they are not doing something.
We'll see how it turns out. KFI AM 640, I'm Mo Kelly. We're live everywhere in the iHeartRadio app. And Charger55 in the Mo Migos Motown chat says, hey, Mo, I want you to go back and do your regular show. And we're just covering breaking news. We have to deal with the news right in front of us. That's what we got to do. We got to make sure everyone's safe, everyone's informed, and everyone knows what is going on, let's say downtown in the second night of the curfew. Look, I would love to talk about movies and all that. We will get to that. We'll try to sneak some of that stuff in there. I would love to be able to say goodbye formally to Sly Stone. Say goodbye formally to Brian Wilson. Say goodbye to Ananda Lewis, who passed away today. We have personal stories and anecdotes for all of them.
You know what's great about your investment account with the big guys? It's actually a time machine. Log in and zoom. Welcome back to 1999. It's time for an upgrade. At public.com, you can invest in almost everything. Stocks, bonds, options, and more. You could even put your cash to work at an industry-leading 4.1% APY. Leave your clunky, outdated platform behind at public.com. Go to public.com and fund your account in 5 minutes or less. Paid for by Public Investing Inc., member FINRA and SIPC. Full disclosures at public.com/disclosures.
We've all done it. You see a headline but don't have time to read the whole story, or there's so much news you're not sure what is worth your time. I'm Colby Ickowitz, co-host of Post Reports, the weekday afternoon podcast from The Washington Post. Post Reports brings you what's relevant and revealing. Breaking stories, politics, wellness, culture. Each episode goes beyond a headline for the context you need. Find Post Reports now, wherever you're listening.
Hi, I'm Richard Karn, and you may have seen me on TV talking about the world's #1 expandable garden hose. Well, the brand new Pocket Hose Copperhead with Pocket Pivot is here, and it's a total game changer. Old-fashioned hoses get kinks and creases at the spigot, but the Copperhead's Pocket Pivot swivels 360 degrees for full water flow and freedom to water with ease all around your home. When you're all done, this rust-proof anti-burst hose shrinks back down to pocket size for effortless handling and tidy storage. Plus, your super light and ultra-durable Pocket Hose Copperhead is backed with a 10-year warranty. What could be better than that? I'll tell you what, an exciting radio-exclusive offer just for you. For a limited time, you can get a free Pocket Pivot and their 10-pattern sprayer with the purchase of any size Copperhead hose. Just text WATER to 64,000. That's WATER to 64,000 for your 2 free gifts with purchase. WATER to 64,000.
By texting 64,000, you agree to receive recurring automated marketing messages from Pocket Hose. Message and data rates may apply. No purchase required. Terms apply. Available at pockethose.com/terms.
Got to take care of this business first.
You're listening to Later with Mo Kelly on demand from KFI AM 640.
And earlier today, I had a very long day in a good and fruitful way. I was on Meghan McCain's podcast, Citizen McCain with Meghan McCain. And Meghan and I go back a number of years. She was hosting here at KFI for some time. I was one of the people who trained her as a radio personality. She's gone and done great things with the View and Her syndicated show and other media properties. And today I was on her podcast, and we were talking about, quote unquote, the riots versus, quote unquote, the protests. And I'm just looking for this real quick. Some of the audio that we can play, I'm going to put it out on Threads right now, if I can ever get this right. But one thing I want to demonstrate was, when you're talking about this, it's not about absolutes. It's never about trying to be all of this or that. The world is all about gray. It's never, I should say, it's rarely is it black and white. Now, I just put it out on Threads. I want to play just a little bit of audio. Steph, I want to talk across the board. The microphones in this YouTube piece are a little bit unbalanced, so you may have to ride it. So here we go.
Obviously, Mo, you and Miranda are in Los Angeles. I want to show some of this B-roll, if possible. Number 2, as people know, maybe they don't know, 4,000 National Guard troops and 700 Marines have been deployed to Los Angeles. And I was actually surprised to see this, that Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass imposed an 8 p.m. curfew. She has told residents to stay away from downtown, and says that 23 businesses have been looted, and there is, quote, graffiti everywhere. The LAPD also deployed school police to set up safe zones to protect students at graduation ceremonies from ICE raids. Just boots on the ground living in Los Angeles. This B-roll is so intense. How are you feeling? Can you just tell me how are you feeling about all this in your beloved city of Los Angeles?
Yeah, and you say beloved city of Los Angeles. I've lived here all my life. I'm 55 years old. I have lived every year of my life except for college in Washington, D.C., here in Los Angeles. I say that to say I was here for Rodney King riots in 1992. I assisted with the cleanup in the days afterward. I was here in 2020 for the George Floyd protests and riots. I was here for the Dodger celebration in 2024 and also the Dodger celebration in 2020. I say all that to say they're points of reference. And unfortunately, a lot of people have been reaching for absolutes. It's a riot or it's a wholly peaceful protest. It's neither. It's somewhere in between. If you wanted me to categorize it, I would say what I'm seeing, and I live 7 miles from downtown. I drive through downtown every single day. I am eyes on all of this when I talk about it on the air. What I am seeing is something closer to a Dodgers celebration. As far as like the last Dodger celebration, they set a Metro bus on fire. They looted a number of stores. A bunch of people were arrested. That is the closer comparison point than Rodney King or George Floyd in 2020.
Okay. I think that's a really important point. I also, even just like my time living in Los Angeles, when I obviously met you and Miranda the first time I lived in LA, I was trying to explain to someone recently, like Los Angeles is enormous. It's not a small city. Like there's so many different pockets. It can take you hours to go, drive from Malibu to downtown. So it's not like everybody's like scrunched into one place. I want to show you this clip of Gavin Newsom. I don't like Gavin Newsom. I know we all have conflicting opinions on Gavin Newsom, and I'm sure you guys would prefer to have a different governor. But he went on YouTube yesterday to respond to President Trump. Could we play the clip number 5, please?
Is pulling a military dragnet all across Los Angeles, well beyond his stated intent to just go after violent and serious criminals. His agents are arresting dishwashers, gardeners, day laborers, and seamstresses. That's just weakness masquerading as strength. Donald Trump's government isn't protecting our communities. They're traumatizing our communities. And that seems to be the entire point. California will keep fighting. We'll keep fighting on behalf of our people, all of our people, including in the court.
Okay, so Mo, I think both President Trump and Gavin Newsom are playing theater politics to their base in different ways. Do you agree with that? And how do you think that Gavin Newsom is handling this non-Rodney King riot, non-nothing riot happening in your city?
Right, exactly. I was thoroughly disgusted, and I don't use that word often, with what Gavin Newsom did last night. In fact, I refused to play it on my show because it was nakedly political and partisan. And all the times that I have criticized Donald Trump for doing the same thing during, I would say, times of crisis and chaos, for Gavin Newsom to do that nakedly political thing when we needed strong leadership was offensive to me. And I know that word is overused at times, but that was just a nakedly political diatribe when people needed information. Say what you want about Mayor Karen Bass, but she was giving information about the curfew for the benefit of the city and its residents. If I'm on the 110 freeway, I need to know where I can and where I can't drive. We talked about the curfew, which is in a small portion of LA. Like, for example, just information, and you touched upon it. We've seen the protests in Santa Ana. Santa Ana is 42 miles from downtown LA. Santa Ana is in Orange County. It's not even in Los Angeles County. It's not even the city of Los Angeles. There were protests in Paramount. That is his own city and is not in the city of Los Angeles. People need context. People need information to help manage and maneuver through the situation. Going back to Gavin Newsom, he gave none of that. I don't give a damn about his personal issues with Donald Trump. There is a time for that. It wasn't last night.
It's Later with Mo Kelly. You can check out the full conversation of me and Meghan McCain on her podcast, Citizen McCain with Meghan McCain. We just sent it out on Threads at Mr. Mo Kelly. KFI AM 640. We're live everywhere. The iHeartRadio app.
KFI and KOST HD2. Los Angeles, Orange County. More stimulating talk.
You know what's great about your investment account with the big guys? It's actually a time machine. Log in and zoom. Welcome back to 1999. It's time for an upgrade. At Public.com, you can invest in almost everything. Stocks, bonds, options, and more. You could even put your cash to work at an industry-leading 4.1% APY. Leave your clunky, outdated platform behind at Public.com. Go to Public.com and fund your account in 5 minutes or less. Paid for by Public Investing Inc., member FINRA and SIPC. Full disclosures at Public.com/disclosures.
I'm Molly Roberts.
And I'm Drew Goins. Each Friday on Impromptu, we talk through the questions we can't stop thinking about.
Do we need to rethink how much we drink?
Why are companies really asking workers to come back to the office?
Does boycotting a business actually work?
Should we quit social media?
We're here when the news gets personal and the headlines hit home.
Join Molly and me every Friday on Impromptu from Washington Post Opinions.
Find Impromptu wherever you get your podcasts.
I'm Rodney Williams.
And I'm Travis Holloway. Welcome to the Wealth Break Podcast, a real conversation about finance.
Let's be honest. Building wealth doesn't look the same for everyone.
I feel like sometimes being broke is a cycle and that we might have to revisit that.
And we're not stopping at success stories.
What happens when it doesn't go right? How do you cope with it?
Because wealth isn't just about money. It's about creating a life where you thrive and help others do the same.
Listen to the Wealth Break Podcast on the iHeartRadio app,